Just a very quick video. Most of you may not know that, maybe follow the numbers like loosely. Maybe you hear people talk about it, but you don't actually know how this works. I'm going to do this or try to explain this for you guys as the best as I possibly can. This will be just me repeating myself for people that watch my videos because I talk about this all of the time. But let's talk about the numbers before I get into some questions that I have. Comic book sales numbers have been long tracked by a company by the name of Diamond, which basically owned the comic book industry, where most of the major publishers went through them to distribute their comics. What you may also not know is that Marvel, DC, the Images of the world, the Dark Horse, I think, the same, Boom. A lot of these companies, pretty much all of them, none of them actually distribute their own material. So when you actually get the books, often you are maybe like the third transaction in it. More of what happens, give or take, is company will print, publish. They will then sell to the distributor, who will then sell to you. And obviously it has definitely, because like a company like Diamond acts as a hub, you know, they can try to base how much numbers they're going to print based on the pre-orders and all of that. That's certainly going on. So I guess they thought everybody was benefiting from that. And that was how the game worked for a very long time. So with that being said, they're not making their numbers public themselves. Often that is rarely the case, that you see Marvel or DC just telling you how much they printed of a certain book, or in terms of sales or estimated sales or something like that. And to be fair, well, they're only selling to really the distributor, and it's out of their hands anyway. Diamond used to put out these reports, public reports that you see other people report on, like Comic-Con will point, like kind of give you that information, like, hey, here are the top sales of the year or this month and all that. So that's how it went down for so long. Now you had in 2020, definitely with the COVID situation, Diamond basically lost its monopoly, if you lose that term loosely because that's not ever what it was, on the game in the distribution sector. So now what we have is two other companies that came up. We got Penguin Random House, which has been around, as well as Lunar. And both of those basically have Marvel and DC's comics. I think like Image, I think Diamond is still doing their stuff. But with that being said, Lunar and Penguin Random House do not make their numbers public. And as of April of last year, Diamond doesn't make their numbers public. So what happens is that people are now guessing what the sales are. They try to use like the NPB book scans. You see ICV2 does this all the time to try to guesstimate. You have participating stores that are like giving people what their numbers are, but that's about it. As far as the actual sales, you're not getting them from, let's say, a Marvel or DC, and the people that distribute them aren't giving you them at all. Now, before, and it's the last thing I want to get on before I like just ask the question flat out. The sales were never what ended up in the customers. Obviously, that's not what happens. This Diamond is reporting how many books were sold to comic book shops. Okay, so even if they write it on the shelves, that's what it was. That's what happened. And yeah, we know the whole incentive variant thing, which kind of boost sales. Some may think artificially, but that's what, it goes on in the industry. And that is, the reports were pointing to these being sold to what do you call them? Freaking comic book shops. So not how many were sold to customers. My numbers are public. I made my numbers public with, for example, the Riververse. That is not an industry standard. Like when I tell you we sold 60,000 books, and you could go on the website and you can see exactly how many people purchased of the book, of this cover, of this bundle, all of that. You're not going to really see that from the mainstream. So my question is this: why are they hiding the numbers? Now, from all accounts, even when Diamond still had their stranglehold, the numbers in terms of unit sales were on a decline. You don't got to take my word for anything. Just look at it. Stop looking at the sales number alone. Definitely when you have manga, which they consider graphic novels, growing in the West, that's one thing. The other thing is the price increase that we've had with certain books. You can't just look at the sales number to look at the state of the industry. Those are two big variables that you have to take into consideration when considering these sales. So nonetheless, where are the numbers? They were declining before. Now everybody's guessing. All signs point to the industry's not doing as well as what they initially, as they had been in previous decades. That's just the facts of the matter. People aren't as enthusiastic about these projects. There's a lot of talk. Again, Shield Media ain't doing and this is just benefiting the industry. Shield Media just flat out will refuse to cover certain stuff. I don't know, the biggest story in comics in the independent sector last year. These guys are all in on it, but they're not helping the industry at all. I covered an ICV2 column that's talking about this, where he's like, well, there seems to be some a creative rut going on. Yeah, that's what it is. And everybody's kind of in on it. But my question is this: where are the numbers? Where are the numbers? I'll tell you what, if they were doing good, definitely, comparatively speaking, to themselves before, we wouldn't hear the end of it. Not from the companies. Oh, this is the top selling in 30 years. They'd be telling you that, but that's not what's happening. They're on the decline. And luckily for the Marvels and the DCs of the world, they are tied to some mega corporation, so they can get their funding from a theme park or something like that. Giving everybody books, too many titles going on in the first place that are being dropped. They ain't making money like that over there. But I would like to know the numbers, because the numbers help everybody. It tells you where the industry is. This is the last point I'm going to make. Made it before. In order to correct a problem, you have to be honest with yourself. Even if it's a hard pill to swallow, even if it's tough to admit, goes against your sensibilities. In order to correct an issue, you have to address the problem, and you can't really address the problem if you're not honest with what caused it. And that's what needs to be discussed. But there's a big chunk, a part of that now going forward. We have no numbers for the big mainstream guys, really, for any of these cats. They're not telling you what their numbers are, so we're just guessing. And that doesn't sound like a healthy industry. Wherever you're viewing the content, I appreciate you. If you enjoyed it, you may be interested in my comic book company, Rippaverse Comics. Our first book and campaign, ISOM #1, brought in $3.7 million with tens of thousands of satisfied customers. Visit Rippaverse.com to check out our store and stay up to date with the latest campaigns from one of the hottest new comic book companies. Also, my first big step towards a parallel economy was the development of my personal website, EricDJuly.com. This entirely replaced my Patreon. Now, if you enjoy this content, please consider becoming a member over at the website. We have an ever-expanding list of perks for various membership tiers, a forum, and a phone app. Some of these perks will even benefit you if you're fans of the Rippaverse. Anyway, I appreciate you so much for being a supporter and or customer. I even got a little love for my haters.